How you doing, guys? Today we are back on the Senior, and as you can tell, I brought my rims and tires down to my buddy's shop to get them mounted. We were able to do the rear tires, but unfortunately the fronts, I could not use his tire machine to put them on. His tire machine grips from the inside, basically has these 4 pads that come out and grip the inside of the rim. So we were able to do that. But because these are so narrow, these rims are so narrow with this big hub in the center, his inside pads wouldn't grip. I need a tire machine that has the hooks that kind of come in and grip the bead, not the inside of the rim. And I think I might know someone that has a machine like that where I can mount these tires. But hey, you know what? I was able to get these on unscathed. Now the tires that we have here are original Goodyear Sure Grip tires in the size of 8/16, which was original to a Senior. These happen to be NOS, or they were NOS until I mounted them. I got these from a really cool guy that I've known for years and years and years. He basically sold me these 2 tires for literally nothing. I got so super lucky with these. But and when I say they're NOS, I mean they're NOS. I mean the parting rubber is still in place. The hairs are still on the sides. Some of the factory lines are still in place. I mean, I couldn't ask for better. Eventually these rims will be all scuffed down, and I will Rudy Metal primer them so that way they match the patina of the tractor, which is kind of a rusty red color. They're just primer gray right now because I did have to do a bunch of body work on them because they were really pitted in a few areas. And I did have to tube them because the inside beads were pretty pitted, so it wasn't going to seal just with a normal tire. But even with that, I think they look absolutely amazing. So let's go ahead and get the frame back out in the middle of the garage. We're going to be putting the brakes back together. We'll be putting the drums on and maybe loosely bolting these tires on. The initial thing I need to install is this cam arm, which goes from here through the backing plate to this little actuator arm. And this is the arm that goes to the foot pedal. So when you press the brake, it actually, the arm goes down, which then pushes this little cup here, okay, which raises and lowers this adjuster or the expander for the brake shoes. But as you can tell, right there, I do need a little machine bushing to take up that slack, because if the arm slides down, it takes this thing out of whack. This should really be right in the middle. And that's about where I have it right now with that amount of spacing. So I'm gonna go ahead and, yeah, the cotter pin hole's pretty much lined up. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure that, run to the hardware store again, and get a little machine bushing. The brake cam arm is in place and it actuates nice. There's a little bit of play on this side. Yeah, you can see it, but whatever. It moves nice and smooth. Everything's solid. We come over to this side, same thing, nice and smooth. This side, it happens to be a little bit tighter. I didn't use a shim or a thrust bearing on this side because the clearance on it was just fine. I did install 2 new grease fittings on the piece. I did grease up the shaft a little bit, and I did use a little WD-40 when I put those roll pins in because I didn't want to ruin this nice little cast piece. But they're both in place, both ready to go. Next up, there's a couple pivots that go on the shoes. I'll show you that in a minute, but I need to clean them first. And then once I do that, then we can load all of the brake items, the shoes, the springs, the adjusters, everything into both sides. So let me go get those pivots clean and we'll sit down and start putting the brakes back together. Brake shoe time. All right, so in a prior video, I showed you me putting new linings on these shoes. So they're all set and ready to go. Next, there's 2 rollers that go at the top of the brake shoes. They're held in by a pin that goes in this second hole, okay? It comes in through the back. This roller actually slides inside there. The pin comes through, and then there's a cotter pin which holds it all together right there. Now these rollers, okay, actually slide on this weirdo piece right here. So when you press the brake pedal, this arm pulls back and forces that little thing, this little weirdo part up, okay? It's held in place once you get the shoes in there. And the spring tension is what opens, you know, obviously as this goes up, it opens, and then as you release the pedal, the shoes close based on the shoe springs. And we'll put those all in a minute. But what I need to do, what I also did real quick is I removed all the primer from the contact points. I am going to put a little bit of grease, a little bearing grease on the pegs, a little bearing grease on the face of these rollers, so that way I know they're going to actuate nice and smooth. I will put a little bit of grease at the bottom where the adjuster is, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Just so you know, this is what the rollers looked like before I even cleaned them up. So they're quite dirty, like everything else on this tractor. So let me go ahead, let me get this all together, let me get these situated on the backing plates, and then we'll take a look at the actual assembly of them. My brakes are all put back together, fairly simple. The adjuster arms or the adjuster pieces go in. They only go in one way in this particular, you can see I took my knuckle off doing it. They only go in one way, so pretty simple. The shoes come up. There's our rollers right there. The cotter pins. This is the little slide piece. It all runs on this main stud that sticks out. There are two brake springs, one at the bottom, one at the top. And it basically, you can see there it is. It doesn't work the greatest in the world. Number one, it's from the 20s, and number two, there's some wear in there. But I also don't have anything adjusted. Next up is the brake drum. There is a large roller bearing which goes down inside the brake drum like this, as well as this big roller bearing will also ride on this portion of the backing plate. So this bears really all the weight of the tractor itself. Once I have this filled with grease and all put back together like this, there is an oil seal or a grease seal that gets pressed into place. This is a national seal, which is part number 450096. And then there's a retaining snap ring, this old style snap ring, which fits into this groove right there. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, and one of the other things I've done is the 1/4-inch key goes into the axle, 3 inches long. So it's all set and ready to go. Just going to go ahead, fill this up, pack this with grease, get this all done, get the seal on, get the snap ring on, and then I'm going to go ahead, slide the whole unit on, and get the nut and the washer and then the nut. Side number one is complete. Went together fairly easy. I got the nut on with the cotter pin. I've adjusted the brakes where they're not, you don't feel it, but when you go like this, the brake by hand doesn't spin. So the drum doesn't spin. So I'll do some final adjustment once the tractor's all put together. So next up is the opposing side. I may show you me putting the drum together because I forgot to film that when I was doing that, the other side over there. So everything's going to be done exactly the same. I may just interject the bearing installation and the seal installation on this one, just so it's documented on how it goes together. Now keep in mind one thing, each senior is a little bit different. Mine was I'm pretty sure mine came from a truck. So the brake system on mine might be a little bit different than the brake system on yours. Obviously, if you had a vehicle, the brakes were smaller than this. So in a nutshell, this is how the senior is put together. So let me go ahead and drag my dirty ass rug over here and let's get this other side together. bearing installed, greased, the seals in place, and the snap ring, or the snap, I'm going to call it a snap ring. This little guy right there is all installed. I did put a little bit of grease on the race, I guess if you want to call it, but only, not to lubricate anything, meaning the bearing, but just so the seal will just slide on nice. Got my 1/4-inch key cut to size. This side is actually a little bit longer than the opposing side, only because, as you can see, there's some wear and tear on this axle end, which corresponds to the wear and tear in the brake drum too, but it is what it is. So I made that a little bit longer, so that way we have a little bit longer engagement in the drum. I'm going to go ahead, slide this thing on, get the washer, get the nut, and we're going to bolt it down. And there it is. It's standing on 2 of its own legs. First time in like 7 years. Again, don't worry about the primer color. I'm going to be doing something different with the wheels, but man, it looks good. And I broke out my tire spoons and a ton of liquid detergent, and bada bing, bada boom. I got my front tires mounted. I did them myself. Got lucky. Tires stretched real easy, but there you go. That's going to be the front tire setup. My NOS Goodyears in the back. Everything in the back is totally rebuilt, refurbished, from the banjo rear end all the way to the lug nuts. Super, super stoked. I was going to put the front end on, but I think I'm going to call it a day. Next video, we'll do the front end. We'll get the front tires on. We'll get the general front, connecting, the drag link, all that stuff. And I think we'll actually start putting the foot pedals and the foot controls back in, so that way we can get our brakes all in place. I've adjusted the brakes where they're not touching the drums, but if you do actuate the brake arms themselves, they do engage and they do hold the brakes, or hold the brake drum solid. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you would. And as always, when we get back on the Senior, you have a great day.